Hello everybody, welcome to Snyder's Inc. and today we have got another Tragedy Tales video. This is Wedding of Doom, 5 Fatal Events number 3. I don't know if we've done the other two, I'll have to look back and check, but I saw this was uploaded, taken down, and uploaded again, and Tragedy Tales thinks it'll be taken down again, so we're going to get to it before it is. So we're going to watch it, and we'll see how it goes. So, ladies and gentlemen, hit the like button, subscribe button, comment, think down below. Let's go.
You know, every time I make one of these videos, I'm reminded that even when safety is carefully considered, attending an event, a concert or an air show comes with risks. A fire could break out, a crush could occur, or a plane could come tumbling straight out of the sky. While it's important not to dwell on these possibilities, it's worth remembering that things can go wrong in an instant, and your life can end within seconds. But hey folks, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new around here, I'm Ryan from Tragedy Tales, and over here we cover all things tragic. Today, once more, we're diving into 5 more events that sadly turned fatal. From a freak stage collapse in Mexico, to an absolutely terrifying wedding fire in Iraq. This week we've got a range of disasters that are sure to keep you on the edge of your seat. So grab a drink and draw the curtains. Let's get right into it.
What are these people doing? This looks ridiculous. This is like something that could have easily been prevented.
I don't know about you guys, but I think nightclubs are awesome. However, I'm not gonna lie, now I'm 25, I don't really visit them as much as I did when I was younger. But the lights, the sounds...
I never went to a nightclub once in my life. Never have I gone to a nightclub once. I'm like almost 25. Never gone one in my life. Also, I don't think 25 is the age where you're too old for a nightclub. Unless I misunderstand what the fucking nightclub is. I'm pretty sure someone on 25 and so is still fucking a normal age for people to go to a nightclub. I don't know why he's acting like, oh, I'm too 25. I'm too old for them. I can't be going in with all those other 20-year-olds. I can't be in there with them.
The crowds of people bobbing to the beat. It's all a good time, isn't it? The only thing I don't like about nightclubs is how crowded they get.
Yeah.
You're waiting 10 years to get a drink. All the corridors and dance floors are usually packed beyond capacity. You can barely move. While being overcrowded isn't usually an issue beyond the odd scuffle, when organisers don't plan correctly, and then...
Can I address one other? I'm pausing these, but this woman's face is something else. I'm trying to read her face, because she's sick of waiting, I think. Might be some other stuff going on, a weird look at her face, just saying.
Scuffle, when organisers don't plan correctly, and then something goes wrong, it goes spectacularly wrong. Within the space of just a moment, nightclubs can turn into a horrifying death trap, and this entry is sadly yet another example. With that in mind, this entry begins on the cold, early morning of December the 5th, 2009, in Perm, Russia. Running down the centre of Perm is Kuybyshev Street, and nestled along it was the Lame Horse Hotel. The Lame Horse Hotel, constructed in the early 20th century, was initially used for housing celebrations like birthdays and corporate events. However, in the 1990s, following the collapse of the Soviet Union, the building was repurposed into a nightclub. Over time, it was renovated and modified to reflect its new purpose, and by the early 2000s, it was known by all the locals as the Lame Horse Nightclub. In its nightclub phase, the Lame Horse became one of Perm's leading entertainment venues.
I don't know if I'd want the name of my nightclub to have the word lame in it. Like, Lame Horse Nightclub does not sound like a good name for a nightclub at all. So, I maybe would have changed the name a bit.
Venues, attracting swathes of young people every weekend who considered it the place to be. This was no exception on the night of December the 4th, 2009. That night, the club was hosting its anniversary celebration And because of this, the venue was packed to its capacity, with over 300 people reportedly in attendance. That night, the celebrations included...
That sounds ridiculous to say that's it, but like, usually it's like, oh, they're at their max capacity of like 4,000, and there's like, oh, they can only fit 1,500, they only got like, and they added like 4,000, you know what I mean? Like, it's always the most ridiculously over insane amount of adding in people.
Music, dancing, as well as an indoor fireworks display to ramp up the party atmosphere.
What? Does no one understand? You just don't do fireworks inside? At a nightclub especially? You don't do fireworks display at a nightclub. Anytime I've heard about fireworks being done in a nightclub, it always ends with there's a fire that breaks out.
Now, the anniversary night was going as well as you'd expect, until around 1 AM, it was finally time for the indoor fireworks display. Something that all the guests were looking forward to.
I would have immediately left. I'm like, once they're like, hey, we're gonna do the fireworks show, I'm like, okay, that's when we're leaving. Nope, I ain't taking the risk, nope. In a while, like, I've seen it go wrong so many times. I mean, now, I feel like now, actually, no, there's people stupid enough now that would do it now in a nightclub. There's some stupid people that always just will do stupid shit.
Guests were unaware that these fireworks were in fact outdoor fireworks and banned for indoor use.
Yeah.
Yes, you know exactly where I'm going with this one.
Yeah, I know exactly what.
As the crowd eagerly awaited the epic display, one of the performers threw a cold flame pyrotechnics into the air, and as he did, the sparks hit the ceiling and instantly ignited it.
Of course! Of course he did, because he's fucking stupid!
Очень люблю женщин, которые созрели, зрелые, красивые, желанные, обаятельные. Дамы и господа, юбилей клуба, мы горим.
Oh, we've seen this clip before. Okay, this is from, what was this from? What was this from? We are seeing this in another video. Was it an Expo video? Like disturbing things around the internet? Maybe? I know I've seen this clip before because I recognize the thing of the woman turning and like the fire. Because then I recognize this now. I'm just trying to think, where did we see this before? Because I know I've seen this in another video. And we reacted to it in another video.
The tiny flame quickly spread across the plastic ceiling, and within a moment, the whole room turned into a blaze.
Yep.
As the fire erupted from the ceiling, the event's coordinator told guests to leave through the entrance, but the wooden decorations that had lined the interior walls at this point had already caught fire, meaning that most people couldn't move. These highly combustible materials filled the building with thick, toxic choking smoke, and as the fire started spreading, it damaged the electricity, plunging the club into complete darkness. Just put yourself in this situation. You're probably drunk, in a nightclub, you're tired, it's late at night, you suddenly see a fire and try to head for the exit, and then suddenly the lights go out. There's people packed every side of you, front and behind, left and right. You can't move an inch, but you also can't breathe because of the smoke, and you've got flames racing towards you. The nightclub had become something straight out of a nightmare as panicked crowds surged towards the single main entrance. While there was in fact a secondary exit nestled behind the stage, these doors weren't lit up by the usual emergency lighting, so most had no idea that they existed. As partygoers rushed to safety, the entrance doors finally swung open, and when they did, they flooded the club with oxygen, further fueling the flames and causing the fire to burn even more aggressively. As the inferno raged, black smoke filled the room, and the ceiling began dripping molten burning plastic on those trying to escape below. Everyone panicked. It was suddenly every man for themselves. Within the space of minutes, a deadly chain reaction unfolded as 300 people tried to squeeze through the bottlenecked single main exit. In the chaos, some ran to any room that they could find. Some people found their way to the toilets, discovering that they were now trapped. As burnt guests finally made it outside, many stumbled out with horrific burns. Lots of people had been seared by the flames and the intense heat while trying to escape. Those who weren't gravely injured faced brutal -16-degree temperatures outside as they waited for ambulances. As the fire raged on, many survivors dialed for emergency services, but the response was shockingly slow. It reportedly took crews and ambulances 20 minutes to arrive, and by then...
Why? Why did they see this as not an emergency? There was a fire that has gone off and people are stuck inside and they're like, yeah, we'll get to that one eventually, I guess. What? Why did it take 20 minutes? I can't say nothing. I once waited outside for police for a whole hour and they never showed. Why the emergency act they will not take seriously? A fire should be the one made there where you're going there to and put it out.
Then, most of the damage was done. Firefighters got to work saving people and putting out the flames, but when they recovered individuals, they then left them half-clothed and rushed back in to save more. This of course was no good because they left victims lying on the ground for over an hour in the brutal Russian winter.
This is the worst plan. This is not even just a fatal fire. This is a fatal thing on multiple parts. This is fatal because of the fire. This is fatal because apparently emergency service don't know how to do their fucking job. There's so much that's wrong here.
Because of this, some survivors later succumbed to hypothermia, and many believe that these people could have survived their burns if they hadn't been left to freeze in the bitter cold.
The night at a popular club in the city of Perm started out with dancing and fun. But then the footage shows on-stage fireworks setting the club ceiling on fire. Some standing in a hallway don't yet know what's going on as the crowd pushes through. The lucky ones fight their way through the darkness of the club to safety. But more than 100 people did not survive. About 150 others were injured, dozens critically.
Soon after the tragedy, families had flocked to nearby morgues to locate their loved ones, picking their names out of the long list of the dead. In the days that followed, the death toll grew and grew, reaching a staggering 156 people, with 55 victims dying from severe burns in the hospital. The dead succumbed to crushing injuries, severe burns, as well as smoke inhalation and carbon monoxide poisoning. But as I said, some reportedly also died from exposure after being left in the snow. In the aftermath, Russian President Dmitry Medvedev declared December the 7th a national day of mourning. Soon after, high-level government officials descended on Perm to aid victims, investigate the tragedy, and assign blame. After a thorough investigation, it seems that the main issue here was the fact that the club owners allowed the use of outdoor fireworks inside.
Yep.
But to be honest, all of this was just an accident waiting to happen. It turns out the building only had a license to hold 50 guests. It was truly never meant to facilitate large crowds.
Wait, what? Because 300 in a nightclub does not sound bad to me. I didn't think a nightclub would only be like 50 people. I feel like even just at this thing you could do, if this is the actual like setup of it, you could definitely fit more than 50 people here. Yeah, you could definitely fit way more than 50 people. So if this is the actual setup of it, I don't know why the license was only for 50 people. You could do way more than that in here.
They had only one clearly marked exit, making evacuation very
That's a bad part. They only had one exit. They could have one more.
difficult. The club also lacked critical fire safety features, such as sprinklers and alarms, or even a fire extinguisher. Failings that the owners had repeatedly warned to fix, but chose to ignore. In addition to the lack of safety systems, the club's renovation work that converted it from a hotel to a nightclub was not done to any standard. There was not a single official check on the work that was carried out, and when it was checked after the blaze, the club's design differed to what the planning permission had stated. It was missing a large window that would have allowed crowds to escape. When turning it from a hotel to a nightclub, they followed no safety guidelines.
Why? Another why. Why would you not follow any safety measures and have any safety thoughts about? Is it a speed thing? Is it a timing thing? Like, did they have to rushly do it, so they just said fuck it? I never understand why people do that. If you're building something, why would you make it so it's unsafe for people to be in it? I never can understand that.
They just did whatever they wanted and lined the interior with highly flammable soundproofing foam, as well as wooden panels. Add fireworks to the mix and something was bound to go wrong eventually. On the 8th of December, when President Putin visited, he acknowledged that local and federal officials were also partly responsible for the deaths and the fire. On the same day that Vladimir visited, 7 officials were dismissed from Perm's Fire Safety Supervision Authority. So someone clearly had messed up here.
That's one of the rare few times that I'm glad I saw that, like, actual officials are being held responsible here. Like, the people on fire safety, they're like, no, you're not fucking innocent just because you think you save people. There's a bunch of people that could still be alive. You didn't horribly fucking handle this. So, yeah, you're responsible too.
Sadly, this tragedy was eerily similar to the Station nightclub fire that occurred in the US 6 years earlier. This raises haunting questions as to why nothing was learnt. Why did they put the soundproofing panels up, knowing that they're flammable, and why did they use outdoor fireworks inside? It just...
The flammable, the soundproofing thing, I feel like most people use that. Am I wrong? I don't know the setup of a nightclub. I don't know, or clubs in general. So I don't know what's used, but I feel that most of them use some sort of soundproofing thing if you have a concert and music playing, I think. I could be wrong, though. I think the main thing is the fucking fireworks the outside fireworks being used inside, because that's just fucking stupid. That's just stupidity.
Boggles the mind. In 2012, after a lengthy court battle, the manager of the club received a 6.5-year sentence, and the co-owner was sentenced to 4 years in prison. The head of the pyrotechnics company that supplied the fireworks was also charged with negligent manslaughter, and the nightclub staff that were working that day...
Hold on, go back.
4 years in prison. The head of the pyrotechnics company that supplied the fireworks was also charged with negligent manslaughter.
Okay, so I'm gonna assume the pyrotechnics guy sold it directly to them. Okay, so it wasn't like a store. Because I was about to say, I don't think a store should be held responsible. They don't know what you're gonna do with it. But the pyrotechnics company itself should know that these guys should not be doing outside fireworks inside. So they should know better.
And the nightclub staff that were working that day failed crowd safety and received fines as well as short sentences. However, the following year, in 2013, the owner was finally convicted of criminal negligence as well as safety violations and was sentenced to 9 years and 10 months in prison, with his appeal being instantly denied. These sentences felt insignificant to the lives lost, but at the time, holding anyone accountable for fire safety violations in Russia was a rare step forward. This tragedy promoted sweeping fire safety reforms all across Russia, implementing way stricter inspections, improved emergency exits, as well as mandatory sprinklers and alarm systems in all public venues. While these changes may prevent future disasters, for the 156 victims of the Lame Horse Fire, they of course come far too little and far too late. In air shows, where planes are flying about like madmen through the sky, sometimes ego can make pilots do stunts for crowds that they really, really shouldn't. The exhilaration of the moment gets the better of them, and when you're flying a 6.5-ton aircraft at 600 miles an hour, a single lapse in judgment can spell disaster. This entry begins on Saturday, August the 22nd, 2015, in the cute coastal village of Shoreham-by-Sea in West Sussex. Now that fine weekend was the perfect day for an air show. As it was the peak of summer, it was hot and sunny with a very slight breeze in the air. This fine weather attracted around 20 to 30,000 people to the annual air show held at Shoreham Airport. For a bit of background, the Shoreham Air Show was a 2-day air show that started in 1989 as a charity fundraiser organised by the Royal Air Force Association to support the welfare of veterans as well as their families. Over the years, the air show grew into a popular family event that attracted people from all across the UK. The Shoreham Air Show was known for its displays of historic as well as modern aircraft, attracting a wide range of aviation enthusiasts as well as general spectators alike. That year, anticipation was high, just like in the previous years. In the morning, the gates swung open and crowds filled the airport with their kids, eager to see some aircrafts flying above them. The morning opened with the Blades aerobatic team, they then had the RAF Falcons, and finally, to end the morning, crowds were amazed by a performance by the Tiger IX aeronautical display team. So the morning went very well. Families were making lasting memories together in the airport's field, blissfully unaware of the tragedy that was about to unfold. For the afternoon, something very special was set to greet the guests. A vintage former military aircraft, a 1950s two-seater Hawker Hunter T7, piloted by veteran pilot, 51-year-old Andy Hill. Andy was described as a careful and competent pilot. He'd worked as a captain at the British Airways in the past and had over 12,000 flight hours on his record. But strangely, he had only 35 flight hours in this particular aircraft. In an air show in the previous year, Andy...
Yeah, you need longer than that. You need longer to be in that airplane and everything before you were doing a fucking air show. No longer than 35 hours. You need longer than that.
Had flown too close to the crowds before turning his plane and ending the display. This lack of care caused the air show to stop for the day, but it then resumed the next day with no faults. So Andy was an excellent and experienced pilot, but sometimes he would push it too far, and in this 2015 air show, his luck would finally run out. At approximately 1:22 PM, Andy was set to make his appearance. The engines of the Hawker Hunter T7 started up. Before long, the Hunter took to the sky and commenced its display, starting with a low pass along the runway from south to north. People must have thought that this was epic as the plane rocketed past them. Coming back from this low pass, however, as the aircraft neared the airport, Andy decided that it would be a perfect time to attempt a loop. He started this loop at a height of only 60 meters and at a speed of only 173 miles an hour. To put it in perspective, this trick should only be attempted at a height of at least 150 meters and at a speed of at least 400 miles an hour. Everything about this maneuver was wrong. Andy was coming in way too slow and way too low to the ground. He later said at this altitude that there was no room for misjudgment. In front of the crowds, the plane attempted to do the loop. It soared far up into the air, and as it came back down, it was clear to see that Andy had miscalculated the trick. The vintage plane plummeted towards the ground, and as Andy pulled upon the stick, it refused to come up. It was useless. He'd simply not left himself enough time.
Where's it gone? There it is. Here it comes. Oh my gosh. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh my word.
Okay, sorry, this way this guy's talking is made me laugh. Just, oh dear. Oh dear God, oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh dear God. Oh my lord.
Oh dear.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a most unfortunate event. Please be assured that everything that can be done is being done. And I thank you for your patience. I thank you for remaining where you are for the moment, whilst we all come to terms with what has happened. We have for the time being stopped any further airshow flying. I stress that's a temporary stop.
Despite trying, he failed to pull the plane from its trajectory and crashed on the A27 motorway, travelling at 250 miles an hour.
Whew.
On the motorway, not only were there a few spectators standing watching the show, but the motorway was also completely full of cars, stuck in standstill traffic. The plane impacted the motorway and exploded in a violent plume of fire, throwing burning fuel and plane debris in all directions. Spectators of the airshow saw the plane crash, then saw the smoke rising, but had no idea of what had just happened. It was a complete catastrophe. West Sussex's fire team and rescue service were first on the scene, but they'd seen nothing quite like it. The impact of the plane was brutal. Anyone caught in its path of destruction just didn't stand a chance. In total, 11 people on the ground were killed and 16 others were injured in the crash, making this the deadliest airshow accident in the United Kingdom since the 1952 Farnborough Airshow, which killed 31. Whilst the majority of those killed intended to be by the side of the road watching the display, some people that were killed had no interest in the airshow at all. Some of them had no idea what had hit them. Amazingly, against all odds, the pilot actually survived the crash. He was put into a coma and eventually came out of it. This incident quickly reached worldwide news, and the haunting footage shocked everyone.
Did he get charged? I don't know what the stance would be on that. I don't know if he'd be... It wouldn't be... I don't think it'd be murder, but it could be manslaughter, maybe. Negligent manslaughter, maybe? No, I don't know. I don't know on this one. Actually, this one curious me, because I don't know if he'll be if he could be charged or not. I mean, I will find out, but... I don't know.
After the incident, the second day of the airshow on August the 23rd was cancelled.
Yeah.
Shoreham closed its doors to the public and never hosted an airshow again. Now, the police did question Andy after he woke up from his coma, and he stated that he had no idea what had happened and that he didn't remember the crash, failing to come up with a reason as to why it occurred. Other professional pilots have watched the footage back, and many of them have stated that there was multiple times where he could have corrected the course of the trick, but just failed to do so. Against his wishes, his pilot's license was revoked on the spot, which is probably for the best.
Yeah.
Many locals and victims alike showed complete anger towards Andy for attempting a risky stunt in front of crowds when he just shouldn't have. In 2019, it was time for him to face the music.
Okay.
Andy appeared in court charged with 11 counts of manslaughter by gross negligence.
I thought so. I thought it'd be negligent manslaughter. It's the only thing I can think of where I could understand it, because it is his negligence of doing the trick that got them killed. So I completely could see why negligent manslaughter was the one they'd go to. I wasn't sure, though.
After the trial, a jury found him not guilty, and he was released scot-free.
Wow.
When he gave evidence in his own defense,
That's actually insane. That's legitimately shocking. I did not think he'd just be termed not... Like, it's not... He's fucking fine. He just wiped his hands with it and he's done. And they're like, yeah, he didn't do anything, I guess. That's insane.
talked about the tragedy, tried to explain his actions, but didn't apologise to families of those who died who were in court. A cockpit camera suggested Andy Hill was conscious during his routine, but his defence successfully argued he must have been cognitively impaired. The prosecution had argued that Mr. Hill had made other errors at air shows, but his friends defended his record.
I've never known him take any risks. He, amongst many others, including myself, will have made small errors during the course of our flying careers, but he was a very disciplined, a very focused individual, took a great deal of interest in the detail of every sortie.
1,295 days ago, I lost control of an aircraft. A number of people were injured. I'm truly sorry for the part I played in their deaths, and it is...
But they weren't injured, they died. They died because of you and your recklessness. You talk about them like it's you talk about this like it's an inconvenience. Like they're an inconvenience, like it's their problem, like it's their fault. They don't mind no fucking businesses. You just want to be a reckless little cool dude who does a little fucking loop with a plane. Too damn short to the ground and too damn slow.
Day that I will remember for the rest of my life.
In 2019, following a close consultation with the victims' families, the local council built a memorial tribute near the Shoreham Toll Bridge to forever remember those who perished in this unthinkable tragedy. 11 silver metal arches were constructed and engraved with the names of the dead, a somber reminder of the lives lost. Now, this crash significantly impacted air shows all across the UK, leading to sweeping regulation changes. Vintage jet aircraft displays over land were restricted to only high-level flypasts and strictly banned any form of aerobatic maneuvers. Amazingly, in October of 2024, against the wishes of victims' families, Andy again applied for his complete pilot's license, hoping to take to the skies once more, only to be denied almost instantly.
Good.
Now, this was all just a shocking tragedy where, ultimately,
don't let him fly. He's too reckless. He can't be flying and doing air shows and shit.
nobody was held responsible. It's heartbreaking, but I'm interested in your thoughts below.
So am I. This is what I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on, because I feel like I don't know if I'm losing my mind here.
Campaign rallies are events of promise as well as spectacle, where leaders and supporters come together to share a vision of the future. But when so many moving parts collide, logistics, people, as well as unpredictable forces, things can often take a turn that nobody expects. With that in mind, this entry brings us to the northeastern city of San Pedro Garza Garcia in Mexico on May the 22nd, 2024. In May of 2024, Mexico prepared for its highly anticipated elections. On May the 22nd, a campaign rally set up in San Pedro Garza marked a pivotal moment in the local political race. A woman named Lorena Canavati, who led the event, was her party's candidate for mayor of San Pedro Garza, but this rally was also attended by George Alvarez Maynez, the party's presidential candidate, further underscoring the rally's significance. On that fateful day, together they gathered 10,000 supporters at the El Obispo baseball field for a campaign rally that was sure to leave an impression. It was meant to be the pinnacle of her campaign, complete with high-energy crowds, and afterwards a performance by the beloved local band Bronco. However, by the night's end, what should have been a triumph unraveled into total disaster. Starting at 6 p.m, thousands began gathering at the baseball field, surrounding a temporary stage that had been constructed specially for the occasion. With a civil defense team reportedly confirming its safety, absolutely nothing was out of the ordinary. It was just another rally. At 6:28 p.m, half an hour after opening, the National Meteorological Service issued a fresh alert for northern Mexico, including the state that the rally was being held, Nuevo Leon. This alert forecast heavy rain, as well as fierce winds in that area that could blow down trees and billboards, reaching 40 miles an hour. There was even the potential for tornadoes. This wasn't even the first warning of the day, however. A similar advisory had been released earlier that afternoon, but despite these ominous warnings, the campaign rally continued on. For 2 hours, the rally continued, and the weather just got worse and worse. The winds picked up significantly, blowing plastic coverings wildly into the air. Darkness settled on the rally, and there was a sense that something terrible was about to happen.
Yeah.
And that's because it was. At approximately 8 minutes past 8, as the candidates were on stage preparing for the band to play, a sudden, terrible gust of wind swept across the rally. It swept across the stage and caused a large screen and stage rigging to topple forwards. The campaigners scrambled out of the way as the large screen fell forward, and as they dodged the collapsing structure, it then struck the people in the front row. As the winds blew, just seconds later, the temporary stage also then collapsed forward, trapping and crushing people underneath heavy metal poles. Within a blink of an eye, a total catastrophe had unfolded. Several members of the local police department, civil protection, National Guard, as well as even the Mexican army were immediately on hand, as they were already close by due to a wave of violence that was in the area. Ambulance lights lit up the darkness and tended to those injured, but there were just so many that had sustained injuries, broken bones, and large gashes that it was hard to deal with all of them. 213 people were injured by the stage, and sadly, by the end of the day, 9 people had lost their lives. Tragically, one of them was just a child. A month later, another victim succumbed to his injuries in the hospital, raising the death toll to 10. Immediately following the disaster, the candidates confirmed that they were indeed safe and expressed their deep sadness about the entire event. They said that they had pledged to work together with authorities to provide support to the families and help those that were wounded. They said that they would pay for all the funerals of those killed, but only then did they advise people to shelter from the winds. The decision to continue with the rally came under severe scrutiny by those injured and families of the deceased.
Yeah, as it should be. You don't do a rally when there's a risk of wind and shit and thunderstorms. That's where you fucking stop it. You're like, hey guys, so we have to cancel this. There's a risk, there's a bad storm coming, bad winds, and we don't want to make anyone at risk, so we're going to end the rally here. We're going to cancel rally. We'll do it a different day with the same, you'll get the performance that day. Please show up, and you just go about your business. And you just fucking leave and let everyone go, and you go home, and no one gets injured because of your bullshit stupidity.
Why, when a tornado warning was issued, was this even allowed to continue?
Yeah.
It's not like this kind of thing has not occurred in the past. When questioned, organisers claimed that the winds occurred with no warning and that nobody could have predicted it, saying that this thing took us by surprise. There wasn't even a storm forecast for the city. But of course that wasn't true. As stated before, there were 2 warnings that day. Heavy winds were forecast up to 6 hours before the collapse. Sadly, by researching this, I can't find that anyone was held responsible for this, at least as of saying this right now. Officials really should have seen this coming. They should have cancelled the whole thing, but instead they chose to go ahead with their silly rally, injured hundreds of people, and took the lives of 10 innocent individuals.
Here's the reason no one's held responsible, because they make the two it go back onto the two who are the 2 candidates. That's the reason. It go back to them 2. And because they didn't want to go back to them 2, swept under the rug. That's why.
In this entry, we're going to a place that I've covered many times before, the diverse country of India, in the Puttingal Temple located in the coastal town of Paravar, on the night of April the 9th, 2016. On that warm Saturday April night, around 15,000 pilgrims made their way to and gathered at the Puttingal Temple. They'd all made their way there to gather to mark the start of the Hindu New Year. To celebrate the occasion, at the temple, organisers planned a big event, as they did every year. Performers were set to perform, and hundreds of huge fireworks were lined up in a concrete warehouse nearby, ready to be set off. Now, these fireworks were an annual occasion that many look forward to each year because they were so wild and, not to mention, dangerous. Every year, around the start of Hindu New Year, temples all across India create crazy fireworks shows to compete with one another to see who has the most spectacular display. Just looking online, the more extravagant the display, the more appeasement. These events are typically filled with
That's where things go wrong, is that type of thought process.
Joy and togetherness, but tragedy struck with brutal force on that night. At around 12 PM, the festival began at the temple. Performers, as I said, performed, and then the fireworks were lit. Thousands stood by watching very close, watching them go up in the air, completely unaware that the organisers had been denied permission to light any fireworks that night, on the grounds of poor safety. However, board members at the temple chose to ignore these warnings and light them anyway, under pressure from the large crowd. Besides, what could go wrong? It's only a fireworks display. Of course, everyone was having fun. Colours filled the night sky, illuminating the darkness. It was brilliant. The fireworks display continued without fault until around 3:30 AM, when the event was set to end. As the fireworks were lit, one of them, called an Amitu, which was supposed to explode in the air and fizzle out, instead fell out of the sky without exploding and fell straight onto the top of the concrete structure where the other fireworks were being stored. The sparks of this firework lit the firecrackers inside, and within just mere moments, a huge instantaneous explosion occurred, one that was so loud that it could be heard hundreds and hundreds of meters away. The stash of the fireworks exploded in a cascade of
I thought he was about to show a video of like the explosion going off. I was fucking prepared.
Deadly colours and sparks. The blast obliterated the concrete building, throwing boulders of concrete, pinning some and crushing others.
Oh my god. Fucking detonate.
This explosion caused the fire to spread to several adjacent office buildings. They set on fire and collapsed within minutes. Screams of terror filled the night sky as hundreds were scorched by the fireworks and injured by the blast. Dozens were crushed by concrete or were unable to escape before the buildings collapsed, causing the majority of the deaths. A mad scramble ensued as worshippers tried to tend to those in need, many sustaining severe burns doing so. In the space of just minutes, many were dead, and over 400 people had been injured to some degree. Ambulances and fire engines rushed to the scene. The Indian Navy even dispatched a transport aircraft and 2 helicopters to help.
We good? Okay.
The Indian Air Force,
You know, I was having issues there. I thought the video was I thought I was about to get screwed over here.
Army, as well as the Coast Guard were also reportedly involved. Rescue teams used bulldozers to help clear out the area and lift concrete looking for survivors, but all they found underneath the debris was death. One eyewitness, by the name of Yojita, said that it took hours for firemen to battle the blaze and pull out anyone that they could find alive. Another witness described the scene as a globe of fire, saying that he saw severed limbs, bodies lying in pools of blood, some of them even children. That morning, when the sun finally rose, the scale of the disaster became clear. Dozens and dozens of dead lay lined up on the street awaiting pickup, while others still lay injured awaiting aid. The nearby hospital and morgue were inundated by the amount of casualties, and by the end of this ordeal, a heartbreaking 111 people lost their lives, leaving 40 more critically wounded. 111 people who went to pay their respects to worship lost their lives. What was supposed to be a night of jubilation sadly ended in a horrifying catastrophe. Many of the dead were charred beyond recognition and would have to be identified by DNA tests. Soon after the incident, attention then turned to who was responsible, and according to various news articles, the temple board members fled the country following the tragedy, knowing that they were guilty, knowing that they shouldn't have lit any fireworks that night, and that they were directly responsible.
Oh, so they straight up booked it. They fucking ran. They became fucking on the loose because they just fucking took off afterwards. Went on the run.
For the deaths of innocent people. Indian news agencies stated that the police were investigating 6 people, all believed to be missing temple board members, as well as the people who organised the fireworks. They were wanted on possible charges of attempted murder, as well as culpable homicide. On April the 11th, 5 men who worked at the temple who were on the run were caught and taken into police custody for questioning. Over the next few days, police further arrested 7 more people in connection to the temple fire, including the president of the temple. Apparently temples have presidents. It turns out that the fireworks that they'd used that night were not suitable for the temple in the first place. They should have never been set off, and this is why officials denied their permission to light them that night. To make things worse, they'd also been storing the fireworks in less than questionable ways, which further compounded the tragedy when it occurred. The Indian Prime Minister called the whole event heartrending and totally avoidable. He announced a compensation package to those who were injured, and a $12,000 compensation package to the families of those who were killed. At the same time, he vowed to reassess safety at major events, especially those occurring at temples.
That's insane. Like, that, legitimately, that's insane.
The adventure begins on the 26th of September 2023, in a country where I don't think I've covered before, the gorgeous country of Iraq, or more specifically Karakosh, situated in the Al-Hamdaniya district in the Nineveh state. The date of the 26th of September was very significant for engaged couple 27-year-old Ravan and 18-year-old Haneen. It was a day they'd both been waiting for, the day of their big wedding. The couple, as well as their families, had planned and organised a big fancy Christian wedding and invited over 1,000 friends and family to attend. After the pair tied the knot, they'd booked a local wedding venue for the party at a place named the Al Haytham Wedding Hall. That day was due to be the day of their lives. It was due to be an unforgettable experience for everyone, one that sadly proved correct for all the wrong reasons. That day, the wedding actually went down without...
I don't think this is the one where the floor collapses. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. I wonder what happens to this one.
...without fault. The pair tied the knot, marrying Ravan and his beloved bride Heneen. It was then time for the reception at the Al Haytham Wedding Hall. As darkness settled, hundreds of guests began pouring into the venue. They had smiles on their faces. They were all happy, ready for a good time, ready for a party. The wedding venue that night also continued without fault, until it was time for the bride and groom to share their first dance. To make this first dance extra special and memorable, flares were brought in to be set off inside the venue while they danced.
God damn it! Why does no one understand the safety of doing fireworks and pyro and pyrotechnics and anything related to that in a fire inside? Why does no one seem to understand it? It's not hard to figure out why this can go wrong, but nobody gets it. It seems like nobody fucking understands. It keeps happening. Why? Why does it keep happening?
All on camera, the newlywed couple joined arms and danced as the planned flares set off, creating a buzzing electric atmosphere. But almost instantly, in some of the most shocking footage I think I've ever seen, the sparks from the flares quickly ignited decorations draped over the chandeliers and from the ceiling, and the fire spread at an insane rate.
Look at that. Holy shit. That is movie level type shit. Dude, the way this has been done, it's hit the it's like hell has taken over. Like, this is what I expect out of like a movie, action movie. Holy shit. This is demonic hell is arriving type shit. Oh my god.
Within just seconds, a good portion of the roof had already become covered in flames. It leapt distances across the ceiling in mere moments. As it did, the highly flammable decorations, as well as the plastic composite panels that covered the hall, began dripping down on the guests below. And as I always say, then a total nightmare ensued. As guests began scrambling for the exit, just moments after the fire began, the managers turned off the electricity in the building, believing it to be an electrical fire. This disabled the lights. Things then went from bad to worse as the wedding hall was plunged into darkness. The only thing that was guiding guests to safety as they ran for their lives was the flames burning all around them and above them. Some guests tumbled over each other to escape and were trampled. The flames, as you saw in the clip, moved across the nylon ceiling at a truly shocking rate. Nobody expected it to travel this fast. To make things worse, there was only one fire extinguisher for the whole building, and when they tried to use it, apparently it didn't work.
Okay, see, this is where the building now becomes the problem. This is just stupid. Every time I think of it, these are always what happens. There's normal safety precautions, and then there's pure stupidity that people do. Like, who the fuck looks at a building this size and goes, oh, we just need one fire extinguisher? That doesn't work. There's simple things you do. There's simple fucking rules. You have multiple exits. You have multiple fire extinguishers. You take... The one thing, no matter what building you make, should be taken seriously is what happens if a fire breaks out. Why is everyone so stupid?
There were no other safety measures installed in the hall, such as fire alarms or even sprinklers. As the main entrance became a deadly bottleneck, toxic smoke began filling the room. People began passing out before they could escape from smoke inhalation. Unfortunately, guests were only made aware of the one exit and entrance, but there was in fact another at the back of the kitchen, and if guests had known about this, many more would have been able to escape. By the time emergency services reached the scene, dozens had already died. Firefighters attempted to fight the blaze, but it was reported that their hoses did not work immediately, and they had issues. The hall was so tight that they really couldn't get in, so a bulldozer was called in to knock openings in the wall to help guests escape. But this only fueled the flames and did little to help those in need. Firefighters tackled the blaze.
This is just this is reckless as it gets. This is as negligent as it gets. I gotta think of one worse than this. Holy shit.
For hours. By the time it was put out, the entire hall had been burnt through. One eyewitness, a 19-year-old boy by the name of Gali, was outside when the fire erupted, and then he realized that he had 5 close friends inside. When he tried to open one of the doors, he described it like hell's doors had opened, describing the scene as a real tragedy, saying that he could do nothing but run from the fire. He said after the firefighters arrived that he was able to look inside for his friends, and while they were fine, he said he saw 26 bodies piled up in the bathroom, as well as a 12-year-old girl who had been completely burnt and left in a corner. I can't actually imagine witnessing that. In total, this tragedy claimed the lives of a horrifying 107 people, leaving 80 with severe life-changing injuries. Whole families were wiped out, and many children were orphaned in the space of a night. Both the bride and the groom suffered minor burns, and the groom, Revan, lost 15 members of his family in the fire. In an interview with him and his wife, he said that his wife can't speak after the loss of 10 of her relatives, including her mother and even her brothers. Absolutely heartbreaking. Again, I can't even imagine what that's like. To lose your family at a wedding in such awful circumstances, it just doesn't bear thinking about. Your wedding is supposed to be filled with happy memories, not horror and death. Local.
If I was ever at no, okay, we should have like pyro top, but that's where the conversation ended. We're not even finishing this. No, we're not. Nope, that's where the conversation begins, ends. We will not go any farther in that conversation. Nope.
Struggled to grapple with the immense loss. Soon after, the Iraqi Prime Minister ordered an investigation into the fire and asked officials to provide relief to those affected. 14 people were arrested following the incident, including the hall's owner, as well as 4 people involved in setting off the fireworks. However, at the time of writing this, the investigation is still ongoing, and nobody is yet to face justice for this terrible, senseless, and avoidable tragedy.
That is probably one of the most negligent things I've heard in some time. That is one of the most negligent cases I have heard in some time. Whew. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you thought of these 5 fatal events in the comment section below. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all for the next one.